Hi, my name is Tatiana Pryor, and this is my Pecha Kucha presentation on pregnant women and how they're a vulnerable population. Everyone knows a pregnant woman, someone who is currently pregnant or who has already been pregnant, but we often don't think about how pregnant women are actually very vulnerable. This can be seen throughout the entire demographic of women who are currently pregnant around the world. The World Health Organization estimates that about 5% of the entire population is currently pregnant right now. Overall, the birth rate is declining, and categorically, minority groups like Black women are having more babies right now at a higher rate than white women for the first time in the United States. The mean average for women to have children is also increasing, mostly at the range of 25 to 29 years old, rather than 20 to 25 like back in 1990. Since there are many opinions about how to handle pregnancy, there are also a lot of ways to treat it that best benefit the pregnant mother. Of course, better resources are more available to women with fewer health disparities, but even then there's still a lot of complications in pregnancy that can lead to maternal mortality. This is the story of Lauren Blumstein, a neonatal intensive care nurse, and her husband, Larry. This couple was as stable as you could get, middle class, white, no history of disease or trauma, and they were really avid community participants and soon to be parents. All Lauren and Larry wanted was to raise a family of their own, so they began to build a house and began to shift their priorities more towards their family. On the day of their daughter's birth, everything seemed to be going according to plan, but about an hour after this photo was taken, Lauren's health began to take a significant turn. Lauren mentioned to her OBGYN during delivery that she was having pain in her back and abdomen, and the only instruction was for the care team to increase her epidural medicine. After the delivery, Lauren's heart blood pressure cuff was taken off of her, and she was left alone with her husband while her baby was placed in the newborn ICU. This is when her blood pressure began to rise, even though her daughter was being completely watched over this entire time. She wasn't. Over the next 14 hours, Lauren's blood pressure rose exponentially, as well as her pain level. It took some prodding from her husband to ask the OBGYN to diagnose her, and eventually he diagnosed her with preeclampsia, an onset type of hypertension that is super serious because it develops over the course of the pregnancy and really just exponentially takes off during delivery itself. Lauren began to lose sensation in her limbs and eventually the ability to speak, and then suffered a hemorrhagic stroke in the center of her brain, causing her to lose sensation and drift away in pain and become brain dead. The next morning, her daughter Haley was placed in her arms for the final time, and she was taken off life support just because she didn't have any supervision over her preeclampsia, and her blood pressure was so high that it just caused the rest of her body to stop working. This is often the case for many women. Lauren's case is a very tragic study that demonstrates the intense risk of pregnancy for both mothers and babies. Throughout the entire birth process, pregnant women are often told how to prepare for the babies themselves, but never know how to take care of themselves or prepare for their life after delivery. This is especially significant for minority women and Black women in particular, because Black mothers are 4 times as likely to die than white mothers. This is due to cultural barriers, lack of resources, and oftentimes medical mistrust. Women are dying from very preventable causes, whether during pregnancy or during delivery, or even after. Often women die from pre-existing conditions that they didn't even know about just because they don't have access to medical care. In the US, maternal mortality is a much bigger problem than it is in any other developed country in the world. And healthcare costs more, and women don't have as much access to it. So this is a significant reason why so many more mothers die in the US. An impressive solution to this high risk is prenatal care. This includes home monitoring, community building, home building, and frequent maternal healthcare checks. Encouraging women to seek after obstetric professionals that frequently check in on them and teach them how to prepare for the baby in their lives as mothers is really important for them physically and socially, and it's crucial to the mother and the child post-delivery. There's a lot of things that stand in the way of mothers getting care though. Immediately, like barriers like distance or lack of resources or lack of even information can really prevent women from getting the best care that they need for themselves and their future child. This is especially significant for women in poverty or who have a lack of good resources. Anything that can cause mistrust in a gynecologist or any healthcare professional will really just hurt the outcome of them and their baby. It's also really important that women have open communication with their healthcare professionals. So women need to really be able to trust them. And so healthcare professionals should also work with this vulnerable population and make sure that there's open communication. It's also significantly proven that women need healthcare communities, and this can also go for pregnancy communities where they can keep other pregnant women accountable. This is especially significant for single vulnerable women who don't have any other support from family or loved ones. And creating a safe environment at home is also very important to the mental health and physical health of the mother and the baby after delivery. This is often something that comes in handy when you have a doula or someone who does home healthcare checks. There's a lot of different types of pregnancy complications. Like I mentioned, preterm labor and preeclampsia earlier, but there's other ones that you can definitely have pre-existing conditions for or a health history of. But preeclampsia is especially a really big one because hypertension often is something that you can't feel or see. You just have to check your blood pressure for often. Something else that it impacts vulnerable women is postpartum depression. This is something that has gotten a lot more research lately due to mental health studies, but it's something that they're still developing. But overall, health and pregnancy should be a really joyous time for couples, and oftentimes it's not, just because there's so many vulnerabilities and health insecurities that are going on, and so oftentimes people just don't have don't have a lack of resources that don't allow them to have full care. Anyway, there's a lot of things that go into pregnancy and a lot of things to consider about how vulnerable women are. But overall, pregnancy and childbirth should be a joy, and delivering babies should be a joy